Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the TDL July Forum. Hope everyone's having a good summer and staying cool. I'm joined here today, this is Laura Waugh, and I'm joined here with our new communications specialist, strategist Leah DeForest, also our assistant director Ryan Steens, our executive director Christy Park, and we have Ashley Adair from UT Austin Libraries, who will be talking in just a bit. Just a reminder, we are recording the forum and we will make the slides and the recordings available afterward. If you have any questions, please feel free to put those in the chat window at any time. So on the agenda today, we'll have a quick update on the TDR Steering Committee, and then we'll hear from Ashley Adair about the UT Austin Library's usage with Digital Preservation Network. And we'll have a quick update on A-Tex Support Group. You'll learn more about that soon. And a quick update on Vireo 4, the TDL Digital Preservation email list. And then we'll look at some upcoming meetings and events and welcome our newest member to the TDL team, Leah DeForest. So we'll go ahead and get started, and I'm going to pass this over to Christy Park for a TDR Steering Committee update.
Thanks, Laura. So I'm playing the part of Courtney Muma today, who is on the line with us from the UK. But we were having some audio difficulties with her mic. So I'm going to cover some of this material, and Courtney will correct me in chat if I get anything wrong or miss anything important. But Courtney wanted everybody to know about some of the hard work that the Texas Data Repository Steering Committee has been up to over the last couple of weeks and months. They have completed a charter for the committee. And that is available, and we'll make that available online for people to read, just guiding their organization and the work that they're doing. They've also formed a couple of working groups that are going to do some really exciting and important work for the data repository service and for the consortium. One is an assessment working group that is going to be looking at ways to measure TDR use and impact in effective ways. And the other is a training and outreach working group that is working to create and compile training and outreach materials for librarians, potential partners, high-level stakeholders, and faculty and student users. And that group will be building on work that the Dataverse Implementation Working Group has already done, and really creating a full set of materials that will be helpful in reaching out to stakeholders on campuses about the data repository. We're really excited about that. They're working on a pretty, my understanding is they're working on a pretty tight timeline to get some of those things turned around. So as materials and resources come out from those working groups, we'll be sharing those through this forum on our website and in our newsletter. And as Courtney says, they're planning on having training videos up and out by early September. So that's really exciting stuff. So thank you to all those steering committee members and to Courtney for that work. We're gonna switch gears a little bit now and talk more about digital preservation, and specifically about the Digital Preservation Network, which, as you know, is a national collaborative effort that TDL is a part of and has been a partner with for several years now, that's providing non-commercial distributed storage across multiple memory institutions, technologies, and geographic regions. Texas Digital Library, in collaboration with UT Libraries and the Texas Advanced Computing Center, serves as one of the nodes or preservation repositories in this network, in this Digital Preservation Network. We are the Texas Preservation Node, or TPN. And with DPN, or Digital Preservation Network, copies of content that gets put into the network get replicated at 3 of the 5 nodes that are operating. Those nodes include HathiTrust in Michigan, AP-Trust in Virginia, UC San Diego, Stanford, and Texas. This is active preservation, meaning The content is being actively monitored through intermittent fixity checking. And the service comes with stewardship succession, meaning that if an institution who puts content into DEEPN goes away or can't continue to steward it into the future, then the stewardship of that content will succeed to DEEPN or to another member within DEEPN. So there are multiple levels of safeguards for the content that goes into DEEPN. The membership, or not the membership, but the payment model for DEEPN is a little different from many of our other digital preservation storage services. It's an upfront per terabyte payment that covers 20 years of storage, kind of a one-time payment. And finally, we always want to emphasize that DEEPN is a service that's available to all TDL regular members and to all digital preservation affiliate members of TDL. Because you're a member of TDL, you have access to DEEPN. Other institutions across the country have to pay a $20,000 per year membership fee to be able to use DEEPN. Because of TDL's consortial membership in DEEPN, our members have access to this really amazing digital preservation resource, and we want to encourage all of our members to take advantage of that as they're ready. So today, we're really excited that we have Ashley Adair here to talk to us about UT Austin and how they are using the Digital Preservation Network as part of their digital preservation strategy here at UT. And if you remember, last month we had Sean Buckner from A&M who talked about how A&M is using it. Ashley's going to spend some time giving an alternate perspective on how another institution is approaching their digital preservation work and how DEEPN is a part of that work. And so, Ashley, thank you for being here. I'm going to turn it over to you to go through some slides.
Hi, thanks for having me here. I'm going to first, So I'm going to first go over some background that sets the stage for our work with DEEPN to date, and then I'll describe 2 different cases of content that we're ingesting into the network. And finally, I'll discuss where we are currently and touch on some next steps. Tiny button. By way of background, UT Libraries, as most people know, was a founding member of and is the physical home to the Texas Digital Library. We're also a charter member of DEEPN. I work in the digital stewardship unit of the library's leading digital preservation efforts. A colleague from my unit, Ben Chang, provides technology coordination and support, and he's been working a lot with TDL to test and facilitate DEEPN ingest through the DuraCloud console. The Texas Advanced Computing Center, or TAC, figures in this work by providing part of the Texas Preservation Node Storage Architecture, and because I work with them on a research data cyber infrastructure from which we selected some legacy data to include in UT Austin's first-year DEEPN deposit. So we have a total of 5 terabytes allocation split between UT Libraries collection material and this research data. And I'm going to go into some more detail on each of these now. UT Libraries content selection was guided by many of the same principles that other users of DEEPN have noted, such as whether the content is unique to our collection, generally regarded as being of high informational value or cultural interest, and whether it's already preserved in another long-term solution. We were also realistic that our first year attempting to deposit in DEEPN might bring challenges on its own, so we took a pragmatic approach in identifying content that was already in good shape to be ready for ingest while fitting within these broader criteria. In the end, we selected our collection of scanned Relaciones Geográficas and our scanned University of Texas bulletins and publications. The Relaciones are a collection of 16th century manuscripts and maps ordered by King Philip II of Spain as a survey of Spain's holdings in what was then New Spain. These are routinely cited as one of the gems of UT Libraries. The physical items are irreplaceable and hold high scholarly interest, and the scans were created in recent memory to nice technical specifications and with some readily available basic metadata, so they were a really good fit for this effort. The University of Texas bulletins and publications represent many decades of the scholarly work of the university in all subject areas, and were scanned in their entirety for inclusion in our institutional repository, again with metadata handy, making them another good candidate for our first-year deposit. For each of these, we created enhanced packages for DEEPN compared to what we have stored on LTO tape, which is our general archival storage. We recalled all of the digital assets for the collections from tape, along with the technical metadata that we had stored with them. We then augmented these with copies of descriptive metadata records where available and with a copy of the DEEPIN contract with UT. We knew that we would bag the content for DEEPIN, so we devised an approach to each content set to use for the bag info file, which is the bag's basic plain text metadata file that would give us each element of a basic OAIS archival information package. Carrying out the approach on each item represented a lot of work by various technicians in our unit, such as rounding up OCLC numbers or DSpace handles as the case may be, carefully transferring individual item titles into each item's bag info file, and just generally going through in a very routinized, granular way and making a record out of the bag info file that would make it perfectly clear what the data in each bag is, what is its context, to what other items does it relate, and so on, without anyone from our institution needing to be there to describe it or explain anything. Keeping in mind that DEEPIN is meant to outlast technological changes and staffing turnovers, our goal was truly to make simple, straightforward data packages that would be self-evident and useful on their own. Again, this was a lot of work, but it helped push us to improve local digital preservation practices in ways that we're already implementing. In terms of local record keeping for our deposits, we're retaining vestiges or shells of our DEEPIN bags in a network storage space, which are the bags minus their actual data content. So that would be the bag info file and all of the bag tag files, so that we can reference them later should we need to. It's easy to make a connection between these information packages and the assets on tape, so we haven't really seen a need to revault the entire DEEPIN packages to tape. As I mentioned, TAC research data also made up a significant portion of our first DEEPIN deposit allocation. In this case, TAC staff members identified legacy data for which they currently have stewardship as a good proof of concept case for DEEPIN. I work with TAC on data curation and preservation aspects of a natural hazards engineering cyber infrastructure called DesignSafe, which is funded by the National Science Foundation. As a part of winning the grant for this project, TAC took responsibility for all of the data stored in the system that predates DesignSafe, which is called the NEAS Hub. These are data generated in experimental facilities such as tsunami wave basins, wind tunnels, or shaking and centrifuge machines that replicate earthquake forces. The data selected form only a part of the NEAS Hub total data and were selected for this first year based on the size to fit within the allocation. So for this, I worked with a TAC systems administrator who pulled copies of the data from storage at TAC and prepared bag info metadata according to a specification that I provided him, using the bag info file in much the same way that we had with the libraries. We had to strategize how we wanted to actually bag the data since the projects are too large to fit through the ingest pipeline in one go. And in fact, we ended up having to rebag a lot of things later because they were still too large, but that's another story. The only way that someone could reuse any of this data is to have the total project components. So being able to piece things back together on the other end of DEEPIN was very important. And we ended up using bag group identifiers and bag count fields to make the relationships among bags and projects clear. We found that queries of the legacy systems database to gather comprehensive metadata for each project were largely unsuccessful. So the sysadmin also did web scrapes of each project's information in its native NEAS Hub environment for good measure, and we included a copy in one bag for each project. For record keeping in this instance, we had to take a different approach since NSF projects change home every 5 to 10 years by design, but DEEPIN is such a long-term effort. We assigned an ARC to each bag in EasyID and used that as the external identifier in the bag's bag info file. This way, when the bag moves to a new home and someone else is custodian of the data, it will be easy to contact EasyID and have the ownership of the identifiers moved over automatically. We also created the same sort of shell bags with all of the metadata and none of the content, and put these, as well as documentation from the project, into the cyber infrastructure itself so that it can all port to any eventual new home regardless of staffing changes in the meantime. Finally, UT Libraries agreed to handle the actual ingest for TAC as part of our role in partnering with TDL in the Texas Preservation Node. We encountered about the amount of issues that one would expect trying to complete this large of a data transfer over the network from TAC to the UT campus, even though we're part of the same institution. These weren't insurmountable, but it was just something to realistically anticipate. And as I mentioned, we ended up having to repackage almost everything that we received when we realized a difference in how the DuraCloud console calculates data sizes versus the tools that were used to create the bags. So this also wasn't insurmountable, but it did mean that we would recommend much smaller data packages going forward just to be safe. So where are we now? Nearly all of our packages for the libraries and for TAC are ready to go in a staging area for ingest into DEEPIN. To date, we've ingested about 60% of the 2016 allocation. There have been some technical delays in the process, but we're moving along. We're also now looking carefully at what the metadata for the ingest looks like on the other side in terms of what we get back from DuraCloud and the bridge, and making decisions about what we want to capture from there, where, and how. In this, our goals are to augment local record keeping about the content that's gone into DEEPIN and devise a sort of deposit receipt for partners for whom we facilitate ingests. Finally, we're thinking ahead to formalizing and enhancing as an organization our content selection process now that we have a year focused really on pragmatism to learn from. And that is the summary I can offer for UT Library's work with DEEPIN so far. Thanks again for having me here. And if anyone has questions or ideas, I'd be happy to take them, or my email is on the slide.
Thank you so much, Ashley. That is fantastic to hear. If anyone has any questions, we do have a comment from Courtney about, yes, Ashley has generously shared much of her documentation, and Courtney will be sharing that via the website. So that's great. And the digital preservation listserv, which we'll talk about more in a moment. But thank you so much, Ashley. So quickly, a quick update on the A-Tex Support Group. You may know that as formerly the Texas Archivematica Users Group. It has a snazzy new name and a snazzy new logo. So this group has been meeting consistently, and they've finalized the group's charter. That was following the Texas Conference on Digital Libraries meeting this spring in May. They're also currently looking for A-Tex members, so other people who are using Archivematica or interested in that, to share those processing configurations and really any of that. And Courtney Muma will be facilitating collaborative feature funding for A-Tex members. So you can email Courtney at any time to check back on that, and she may have some comments on that. But also, if you're interested in joining this group, there's a Google Groups, and the link is here. And we also have a link on the TDL.org website. So just a quick update on Vireo 4. There will be an update at the upcoming US ETD Association Conference, August 7th through 9th in Washington, D.C. And Stephanie Larison, Billy Peterson-Luco, and Christopher Starcher will be giving an update, and they actually have a couple of presentations at that conference, so if you're planning to attend, please check that out. And also feel free to check in with the Vireo users group for more updates. And we will have some additional updates at the August forum about Vireo 4 developments. Also, just wanted to mention again the TDL Digital Preservation email list. There's a link here, and this is a great way to share your resources and talk about digital preservation, find partners, ask questions, also answer questions, and just showcase your local digital preservation projects. So there are 2 ways to opt in, and those are both listed here. And these slides, of course, will be available. And also wanted to mention that if you have any questions or difficulties, please feel free to contact the TDL and Courtney Muma, and we can help get you on that list. But, you can compose an email or click on a link to subscribe. So hope to see you all on that digital preservation email list. And thank you, Courtney's just provided her email address here as well. So feel free to reach out about that. Just also another upcoming conference that is this week, starting tomorrow, but I believe there's still time, but the Baylor University Libraries will be hosting a STEM Librarians South Conference. And there are actually a number of TDL members presenting at that conference and participating. And there will be a presentation by Christina Chan Park and Diana Morganti on the Texas Data Repository. So hopefully if you're there, be sure to check that out. And if you don't have plans tomorrow yet, maybe go ahead and register. I believe there's still a short window of time. Also, the Cross Timbers Library Collaborative Conference will be August 4th and that is at Texas Women's University in Denton. The Texas Digital Library is a sponsor of that conference, so we will be there with some fun pens and notebooks and other things. And also Courtney Muma and UT Library's Jessica Trelogan will be presenting on how donuts and data feed the Texas Data Repository. So if you will be attending the CTLC conference, registration is still open, and if you'll be there, be sure to check that out, and we'll look forward to seeing you there as well. Also, on August 11th, there is a Code for Lib South Central meeting, and that will be at the University of North Texas in Denton. This is a free one-day event, but you do need to register. There is a schedule up, and this is a great way to collaborate and talk technology and all of those fun topics that you weren't really sure which conference to send your proposal to. This is a great way to send it here, because they are looking to have a number of open conversations, and it's a bit of an unconference, so should be a great meeting, so be sure to check that out if you can. And also the South Central States Fedora Users Group meeting will be August 23rd to 24th, and that will be hosted by Texas A&M University at their Medical Sciences Library. That's also a free event, and they just ask you to register so they know who's coming. But always a great meeting, and thank you to our colleagues at Texas A&M for hosting this and helping put it together. So definitely be sure to check that out. And again, if you have any questions about that, let us know, or our wonderful colleagues at Texas A&M. So thank you. And if you have not already registered, the 2017 Fedora Camp Texas will be in Austin. Yes, you heard that right. So you definitely need to register. It will be amazing. It's actually here at the Perry Castaneda Library. This is an amazing camp that's actually held in various locations throughout the world, and we're lucky enough to have it here in Austin. There's an early bird registration rate through August 14th, and you lucky TDL members also can select the member rate discount. So be sure to check that out, and we hope to see you all there in October. So lots of opportunities for us all to get together. And finally, we are very happy to welcome our newest member to the TDL team, Leah DeForest. She is our new communications strategist, and she started on June 30th and has already been doing a tremendous job. She comes to us with a ton of experience, and she's amazing. But one of the things we wanted to mention quickly is she is starting an inaugural communications committee, and would love for you to join that and start sharing stories about what's happening on your campus, or just getting those conversations going, disseminating research, providing preservation services. So please email Leah. Her email is here, and it's also on the tdl.org website. So please join us and join the conversation. So we hope many of you, we already have a couple people signed up, and we hope to have many more soon. So finally, just a reminder that the TDL Community Google group is going strong. Are you hiring? Do you have an announcement or a new project, or do you have a pesky DSpace question you just can't figure out? Well, you can put all of that and more in the TDL Community Google group. So it's a great way to share announcements, upcoming events, just anything at all. So. And then finally, as you're formulating any questions that you might have, of course, our next TDL Forum will be Wednesday, August 16th. It's always the third Wednesday of every month at 10:30. And if you have ideas or stories or things you'd like to talk about, please feel free to get in touch with the TDL, info@tdl.org, and let us know. And that concludes our programming, and we'd love to hear from you, so please feel free to type any questions in the chat window.
Laura, I have a question for Ashley about the work with Deepen. I'm curious if you can talk a little bit with the processes for bagging and assigning ARCs and all those things. Can you talk a little bit about the tools are there any specific tools you were using in that process that you can talk about a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So the ARCs were really just done in EasyID, and that's a place where we could really make an improvement by doing it programmatically. I was just sitting at my computer, like logged into the interface, doing it one by one through the GUI. It was okay because those bags were so large. We focused on trying to, the projects were huge. There was a lot of data, so there weren't so many tiny little individual bags. It wasn't terrible, but that would be a place to speed things up. And then for the UT libraries stuff, Ben Chang, who I mentioned from my unit, came up with a really elegant way. These were very granular bags. We bagged at an item level. So we had, I think for UT pubs, we had something like probably over 100, maybe even approaching 150 bags. Then we have 44 for the Relaciones. And so what he did there was he and a technician worked together to make a data sheet that had columns for each of the values that would need to change. Like we did a template bag info file and then left a little placeholder where, like, say the title would switch. And so he had a column for that value and then a column for the identifier and all of that. And then we just used Notepad++, like just a text editor, to go through it from the data sheet, transferring in those values, and then he parked those in directories where then he could automate the bagging across all of those. I thought it was a really nicely done process. And then we all kind of split up the QC of looking over the bag info files, checking them against the data sheet, prior to bagging. So it was really a team effort. It was a lot of work and it was fairly manual, but I think it produced a really nice quality bag in the end.
How long did it take you from the point of deciding on the content that you were going to ingest to having the content ready to go for ingest, that bagging process?
Oh, well, a while. I mean, months for sure. And it was in kind of fits and starts, it was, we'd have a few meetings on it and make some progress, and then something else would come up that, like with everyone, takes your attention away, and so we'd come back to it. It was months for sure. It was a lot of work.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. It's so useful for to hear in sort of detail how institutions are using these services. And I just want to emphasize, in Courtney's absence, especially that TDL is here to help each one of our members sort of make these decisions in terms of decisions about content that's prioritized for preservation, and in terms of workflows, like the ones that Ashley's talking about. And Courtney, who is an expert in these things, is available to our members who are using digital preservation services to help with those decisions and with consulting on those kinds of things. So we have these two leaders in our consortium in UT and A&M who are moving forward with digital preservation using Deepen. We want to hear from more of our members about how you're planning to use these services as well, so that we can help you. So I invite everybody who's interested to get in touch with Courtney about that. And Courtney mentioned that one great example is that U of H is having her visit the first week of August to help with these workflows. That's right. And so if you are signed up for digital preservation services through TDL, make sure you're taking full advantage of all of those consulting services that are available through Courtney.
Okay, well, thank you everyone again for joining us. And if you think of any questions later, we'll be available. So feel free to email us. But hope you all have a wonderful rest of your July and stay cool. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you at some of these events soon. So thank you all.